Reactor on.
A jackal! Jackal! It's a jackal! It looks like a jackal! 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 It's a jackal! Jackal!
Time!
Hello and welcome to today's Battletech review. Today we're going to be looking at one of the odd boys from the early clan invasion era. The Jackal is not a thing that you've probably seen in your life. It is honestly not a very popular battle mech, and it is a thing that came out, made very, very few waves, and silently disappeared into the night. Some people call it the fast Urbanmech. Not quite sure if the name would have ever stuck if the thing had stuck around. It has a very distinctive gait and a very distinctive look. It's not entirely terrible, but it's not a thing that ever sold gangbuster, and it was never really meant to, I believe. So let's take a look at it. To understand the Jackal, you have to understand where it comes from, and it comes from Solaris 7, even though it is not meant to be a dueling mech. It comes from the company Vining Engineering's and Salvage team, which was led by Dr. David Vinning, who was a graduate from the New Avalon Institute of Science. He was running it as a repair and salvage team, I know the feeling, and the company opened in 3047, but it really exploded during the early clan invasion. What Dr. Vinning did was basically take his team, go to the clan frontline, and just gather as much stuff as he could from off the ground. I'm pretty sure he also did the smart thing and started grabbing a few clan scientists and a few clan techs floating around to be able to help his team. And by the time they came back to Solaris 7, well, they had a pretty good understanding of what a clan mech was and what a clan mech did. David Vinning looked at what was really going on the clan frontline and sat with his design team to design a response to it. Light mechs were the thing that were causing the most issues in a way, because the inner sphere really had nothing to be able to face down a Huller or a Puma, because those things just packed so much guns that had so much range, and they just weren't able to match them with anything except maybe a Wolfhound or a Panther. Writing things down and going down that list, they figured out what would be the best kind of deal for a light mech, and they went with their own proprietary Aberdovey Mark 30 ER PPC with a special cooling jacket as the main gun for the incoming mech. This would give it the necessary range to be able to fight those things like the Ullers and the Pumas, even though it wouldn't be able to match the amount of firepower those things were able to bring to the table. The 3052 JAKL 1532 Jackal is a 30-ton striker using a massive Hermes 270 XL to get speeds of up to 119 kilometers per hour or so on its extensively spindly legs that are probably going to fall apart if anybody looks at them really funny. Never try to kick anyone with a Jackal. You'll probably lose your leg before you do any damage with it. However, the top portion of it is very well protected with 6 tons of standard plates on an endosteel chassis, and for an additional layer of defense, you've got an anti-missile system built into the thing. With all of that together, it is really well protected until something looks at those legs. People do complain about the 11 standard heat sinks that are mounted into it, but you have to realize that Vest basically didn't have access to double heat sinks at the time. They were still really new, and the military was basically grabbing every single one that were coming out of factories. So it was really hard for an independent contractor to get heat sinks on the market. For weapons, you get that big shoulder-mounted ER PPC, which is very good for sniping, and a Streak 2-tube SRM for tank hunting and exploiting holes in the enemy armor that you've done with that big ER PPC. Not a terrible setup. I'd almost have gone with 2 medium lasers instead. You do what you have to do when you design a machine. I'm not terribly mad at the SRM2. It's going to work for what it's meant to do, but it might be a little bit weak overall, and you might have used the weight from that weapon to do something else. This was a really small enterprise, so they needed a partner in order to keep going and to keep producing new mechs. The people who bought the rights to the Jackal were Earthwerks, and they kept asking the people at Vest to keep making the thing a little bit better so they could get more customers to buy it. In 3066, they came out with the Jackal 55, which focused on making the thing a little bit of a better sniper. The first thing they did was remove the anti-missile system in order to stick a targeting computer for the ER PPC, and you get more accuracy and you'll be able to do some pinpoint fire shots. It's not a terrible idea, and since at that time double heatsinks were now prevalent, well, they could stick double heatsinks on the thing so you can actually shoot your gun and not overheat right away. You still have a little bit of space left, so they added a half ton of plates on the design, making it, well, just well enough in terms of protection that it could take shots, trade shots with a lot of different clan mechs, and just be an average overall light sniper. They didn't touch the design all that much until 3077, where they released the Jackal 1579 as an experimental test bed for a few new technologies. This one was fully mandated and produced by Earthwerks, and what they stuck on there was an Angel ECM suite and a PPC capacitor, both things that were, well, needed more work on, and on a light mech was not going to be too expensive to set up and test. The heatsinks are still double heatsinks, but you also remove the Streak SRM2 in order to make the room for both that capacitor and the Angel suite. At this point, what you have is a fantastic long-range sniper with enough defense to be able to stay on the field, and it's going to be comparable to some of the other clan mechs of the era in terms of punch. You're just going to have to wait until the capacitor is charged in order to shoot the PPC for good damage. People really did like that 1579 model, but the Angel ECM suite was freakishly expensive and hard to manufacture at the time. In response, Earthwerks started building the 1578, which was a bit simpler, using a standard Guardian ECM system instead. And for the saved weight, well, you add an ER small laser to give you some more defense at shorter range. It might come in handy when the capacitor is powering up that ER PPC, but it's not a great weapon in any way, shape, or form. But it's a functional little thing that you can add to the design. But even there, people weren't buying the Jackal in any massive amounts, or really any amounts, to be quite honest. For $1 million C-bill less, you could probably get your hands on Clan Wolf and Exile's Pack Hunter on the secondary market, or by, finagling your way to Ark Royal. When the Jihadis blew up the factories for the Jackal, Earthwerks looked at their balance sheet and said, "Oh no," anyways, and wrote it off to the insurer. Best, on the other hand, had a whole lot of other machines that they wanted to keep in production and make a payday off of, while the Jackal was not really bringing in cash. Things like the AQS-5 MAM Aqua Gladius made them a whole lot more money, and people were buying those in severe amounts during the Jihad. As a proof of concept, the Jackal is really good. The improved cooling jacket on the ER PPC is notably great, and the body at the top is pretty darn good, and it works for what it's supposed to do. It does have that terrible leg assembly that probably should have 100 different people look at it and try to figure out how to make it work properly. And nobody's really building any spare parts for it nowadays. So it is not a mech that you're going to be able to find or see very easily nowadays. Combine this with the fact that you've got competition from a lot of clan designs that are actually pretty easy to find, makes the Jackal really at the bottom of your purchase list. As a museum piece or something like that, you might want to buy one. It's weird to buy mechs as museum pieces, but people do that every once in a while. As a frontline unit, I mean, if you've got people doing and machining for new parts, it might be an idea, but it's not something you should jump on as soon as you see one on the market. Honestly, if you are to get a Jackal, make sure you get one with double heatsinks, because the original model is not that great, because it will run you hot even with that cooling jacket. So it is really a thing that you need to ponder on before you buy. So I hope you guys have a very nice rest of your day. I thank you for listening to me for so long, and I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.